So today I'm looking at some more amp sim plugins. This amp sim plugin, the STL Tones ToneHub version 2, and this was provided by STL Tones, so this is what you would call a sponsored video, and big thank you to STL Tones. Now, what's new in version 2, you may ask? Well, first thing, it looks a little bit different. So the layout is a bit different, the amp looks a bit different, but the main thing I'll be focusing on is this thing called a tracer. Now, what is a tracer, you may ask? So from what I know, and I know very little, but from what I know, up until now, all the ToneHub stuff was basically traced. Now, tracing is a thing called tracing, capturing, profiling, is a thing where you take amplifiers, you take distortion pedals, and you use a digital process to get kind of a snapshot of it, and then you can put that snapshot into your software and use a digital version of your amplifiers or your stomp boxes. Up until now, STL Tones did all that stuff in-house. So STL House did all the tracing, or people that work with them did all the tracing, and then they put it into the software for you to use. That's all these packs here, right? There's tons of packs. Artists, producers, amp packs, you can buy them all, and there's some killer sounds in there. But the cool thing with version 2 is you now can trace your own stuff. So through a process which I won't go through in this video, there'll be a video up here about that, and in the description below as well. You go through this process, you trace your own stuff, and you stick it on here. So today I'll be mostly looking at just a general overview, and I'm going to compare a fuzz pedal, the real thing, to the trace thing, and an amp, the real thing, to the trace thing. So to begin with, and chapter marks for everything below if you want to skip ahead. Now to begin with, let's look at the layout. Amp and cabinet looks a bit different, but you've got amp controls, you've got cabinet controls, you know, all this stuff. So up the top here, it tells you what the preset is you've got selected and all the info on the presets, what amp it is, the cabinet, mic, stomp, some notes, all that sort of stuff. Down the bottom here, you've got the usual things like input, gate, a tuner. Now you've got stomps. Now within stomps, you not only get a compressor and 6 different flavors of overdrives. Is that a new thing too? I haven't used ToneHub version 1, so I'm not sure, but there's 6 different overdrives in there. There's a graphic EQ, there's an octaver, there's a volume pedal, and a wah pedal. But the new thing that's definitely new are these 3 tracer stomps. Now tracer stomps are when you take, for example, a pedal like I will later on in this video, this classic Fuzz by DoD, you trace it, and then on a preset per preset basis you can store 3 or have 3 of your traces on here. Now, you've got the amp and cap section, which you've seen before. You've got an EQ section. You've got a post-effect section with wet effects like delays, reverbs, modulation, doubler, a really cool ambient sort of space verb thing. You've got a MIDI section. So I'm using the plugin version, but there's a standalone version too. You get it at the same time when you download it. If you want to connect a MIDI controller to change presets or to use a wah on it, all that sort of stuff, this is where you would hook it up. If there is, a need for a video, you want me to do a video with MIDI, let me know in the comments below and I'll see what I can do. Lastly here, or second last, you've got the routing options, so whether you want mono in, mono out, mono in, stereo out, or stereo in, stereo out, depending on what you're doing. For today's video, we're just going to go mono. And we've got the output section. Now lastly, on the left here, you've got your user presets, so when you save your own presets, so where you go, the packs. You've got a folder for your traces, so if you do your own traces, you save it into folders. That folders goes into the traces folder. You have Trace Exchange, so you can download and share traces. Now, at the moment, there aren't a huge amount of them here because it's a beta version. This is pre-release, but once it goes live, I'm sure there'll be tons of stuff. You download it, it goes into your traces folder. But most importantly, you've got the tracer. So you click on the tracer and this window comes up. Now, like I said before, the full video on how to actually go about it is in the description below. This is just a quick overview, but basically you can choose whether you want an amp and a cabinet or a combo amp, if you want a pedal with an amp and a cabinet, whether you just want an amp, so just like a head, and you want to use the built-in the cabinet simulation or your own IRs that you stick in here. You can have a stomp box and an amp, or you can just have a stomp box. For this, let's just say just a stomp box. You click proceeds. Then what you got to do, basically, or how to do tracing, is you get this file called tracer tone wave, and if you click on locate, it takes you to the folder within. So when you download the software, it puts it into this folder for you. But you download this, you take this, you put that into your DAW, and then you route things, and that's what the other video is all about. So you route it sort of that sound, which is all white noise and guitar playing and backwards guitar playing and stuff, that goes through your amps or through your pedals, and then it goes back into your interface, and you re-record that into your interface with your amp sounds or pedal sounds on it. Then you save that, and then you import that file, and these are ones I've done. So this is, for example, a DoD Fuzz. You import that file into here, and you click Proceed. Now you have a choice between default and advanced configuration. It's basically the fidelity on how much fidelity you have in the trace. Now default is for lower gain settings and clean sounds. Advanced is more recommended for higher gain sounds and fuzzes. Sounds where there's more harmonic content, more overtones and that sort of stuff. Where you want a bit more fidelity. Now, my computer is an Intel iMac still. Default took about 15-20 minutes. Advanced took about an hour 15, roughly. But you do that, you click on Start Tracing, you walk away, you have a coffee, you have lunch, you do whatever you want. You come back, it'll be done. You save it all, you name it the way you want to save it, you name it the way you want to name it, and save it into the Traces folder. And that is that. Now, let's now make some sounds and sort of check out what it actually sounds like. So to begin with anyway, I'm going to use a couple of different guitars and do a couple of different things. But to begin with anyway, I'm going to use this rather lovely California Blue Fender Aerodyne Special Telecaster made in Japan. There's a video for it up here. Now that goes via my Peterson Strobostomp tuner, which is kind of there, just out of shot. With this cable, it comes into this AB switcher, loopy AB switcher. Now it's a passive AB switcher. The power is just so we have the light, so it's a bit more visual, so you can see. So if the amber light is on, or orange light, it's output A, which goes straight into my Audient ID44 interface and then straight into Logic. Now if the blue light is on, it comes out of output B, which then goes through the pedal and then into my interface and then into Logic. Now on here, I have two instances of this. So basically the side A without the pedal goes into the one called guitar, which is, input 2. The other one, the one with the pedal, goes into this one called amp pedal, which is input 3. Now, they're both exactly the same amps. It's the same preset, same amp, same setting, which is this PV Century on a cleanish sort of setting. And they both go through these Celestion IRs, a 4x10 greenback cabinet and a 4x12 Engel cabinet. Now, if you're interested in buying Celestion IRs, there's an affiliate link in the description below that takes you to Celestion. And if you buy any IRs, not just the ones I use, we get a kind of a kickback from it. You're not paying any extra, we just get a bit of a kickback from it. Okay, so these are both instances that are exactly the same, right? So this is now one of them. This is the other one. Just both going into the same preset amp and cabinet. Just one goes through this, one doesn't. Now, this one, I'm going to turn the stomp on, which is now the traced version of this fuzz with exactly the same settings. I haven't changed the settings. These are the settings I've traced this at. This is the advanced trace, and it sounds like this. Now this is the pedal. So this is a real pedal again. And this is the trace. It's pretty damn close. Now let's change guitars. Alright, so this is my Pure Salem Guitars Cardinal. There's a full video for it up here. Lovely guitar, I love that non-reverse Firebird thing, that's a cool guitar. Now humbuckers, they're not super high output humbuckers, they're just sort of middle of the range humbuckers. Same thing, so we're going same setup as before. This is the clean sound. Now let's turn on, this is the real pedal. Traced pedal. Let's try one more different guitar. So this is my Squier J Mascis Jazzmaster with some Mick Brearley pickups in it. The one I'll be using is basically a P90 in disguise. It's not a Jazzmaster pickup, it's a P90 in disguise. And this guitar is tuned to C standard tuning. So let's do the same thing again. So we're going to start off, this is again the traced pedal, and it sounds like this. So now we're going to check out this amplifier here, this one here, the PV Century. Now, setup-wise, I've got the guitar again, going through the tuner which is there, into here again, the AB box. We're not going to use a pedal for this. But basically, one side again goes straight into Logic, and I'm using this high gain, I call it Centurion high gain preset, with it's the same speakers, same everything, just a higher gain trace. Now the other amp is switched off. I'm just using the speakers, so it's the same speakers, but instead of it going into that amp, it goes via the blue output through the pedal, but we're not using the pedal, into the amp, which is back here. And then that's set to the same settings that the trace was set at. The speaker output of that goes into a 2-notes Captor, which is down there, behind that guitar down there. Now the old Captor, there's no cabinet simulation or anything on, it's just a raw amp sound that then goes back into my interface and then into this channel called amp. The amp is switched off, so I'm just using the cabinet. So I'm using that amp with this cabinet, or these two IRs, the 4x10 greenback and a 4x12 angle. I hope that makes sense. So let's check it out. Now this is the sound, this is the traced sound. That's the amp to the cabinet on here. Different guitar. Humbuckers again. One more guitar. Telly again. right, well that was a quick sort of look at the STL Tones ToneHub version 2. And a big thank you once again to STL Tones. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below. Me personally, I think it sounds really, really cool. I mean, I think we're really getting to that day and age now, where this stuff is getting so ridiculously good. Now, just a disclaimer as well. So I do YouTube videos a lot. I spend a lot of time in the studio. I listen back to stuff a lot through studio monitors. I've got my 2 Yamaha studio monitors here where I listen back to stuff. It's always a little bit of, it takes a little bit of getting used to listen to your guitar sound through studio monitors, not just through a guitar cabinet sitting right next to you. It's a different sort of vibe. But if you're used to it, and if you're used to playing real amps with the 2-note stuff, you know, this stuff, through monitors, the software really, it sounds and feels, the main thing to me always is feel. It feels pretty much identical. Whether you may have to think little things like the input gain, the output gain, maybe a little bit more treble here, a little less treble there, maybe a little more gain here, a little less gain here. That sort of stuff is to be expected. It will never be identical the way you trace stuff to the real thing. There's little variances, you know, the different preamps on your interface, you know, going into preamp 2 or preamp 3 input, the input and preamp 2 or 3 on the interface will sound ever so slightly different. There's slight variances, different cable runs, you know, different impedances coming from guitar amplifiers, coming from guitars, all that stuff sounds a little bit different. So it's never going to be 100% identical. But to me, this stuff is so close that if I were to sit here and I was blindfolded, I don't think it would tell a difference between my amp and the trace. That's just my honest opinion. Take it the way you want to take it. Yeah. And on that note, thank you so much for watching. If you haven't subscribed to the channel and you've made it this far into the video, please do subscribe, because about 90% of our viewers are not subscribed. Big thank you to everyone for watching. Big thank you to STL Tones for sending this to me or letting me have a copy of this. And yeah, see you in the next one. Bye.